Hello, welcome to another fly tying lesson. The pattern I'm going to tie now, it actually goes on into a variation of the emerger that I've done previously on the Quill Bodied emerger. The difference is I'm tying this now on, and I'm tying it on a size 14 so you can see it, but I use these fine dry SLD Partridge hooks. All my hooks are barbless. I always fish barbless, but these patterns are really good for fishing that surface film. Now, previously I explained with the hook that I used before, which was the emerger hook, how I wanted that I could change the body shape. And this allows me to do the same. I'm still going to fish this fly as an emerger, but it's going to be higher up and actually in or on top of the surface film. It all depends on what I do to in relation to treating the wings and the tails, how it fishes. I'm using this uni nylon 70 denier white multi-strand silk, and I tend to use light silk throughout. And the first thing I'm doing is tying on with a jam knot and bringing it through. And again, the first thing I'm going to tie on is the CDC wing, but I brought the silk down just a little bit further, and as you can see, I'm a good 2-3 millimeters from the end of the eye. And the reason is I want this wing to sit further back and come up from that point there, because it's going to be tied in forward as a proper wing. And what I've done is I've again taken four, oh, they've all just moved, so I've got two back to back, and as you can see they bend one way, and then I'm going to put the other two in a similar position so they bend the other way. And what happens is, in this particular case, I can, if I want, if I'm doing a different winging technique, is put them like that so they actually naturally split. I don't want to do that in this case. What I'm actually doing is just putting them together, lining up the tips, pinch them two together so the stalks come together, holding them at the base, and because what I'm wanting is this material in the wing. So I'm now actually going to look at tying in this wing just a little bit over size of the hook shank. So rather than having it elongated, I'm actually going to utilize measuring it off, and I'm going to pinch and loop and draw up, pinch and loop and draw up. So I've put two turns on, and what I've got now is the wing going forward, coming up at that point, and I've got the waist here. I'm now going to take my silk and wind it in front of that wing, and then I'm going to lift up the waist and wind behind it. So what it's doing, it's pushing it together, and two turns, and then I'm going to post it. So what I'm actually doing is drawing that around the base. Okay, now at this point I'm just going to trim these bits off here because they're going to get in the way. That isn't the final trim, but that pulls that out of the way. And what I'm now going to do is take the silk down to tie in the actual CDC legs. And what I'll do is I'll use this. It's worth talking about CDC at the moment. What I actually use is proper registered CDC from the region of Spain where they're all done, and they all get a certificate with a cockerel on it, and I actually get these from Barrio. There's about 24 different shades that you can get, and these are, you can see by them, fine shiny. The bird isn't culled. What actually happens is the bird is actually plucked for these fine feathers. So I'm bringing it up and I'm putting it onto the side. I like to have my tails slightly extended, and the reason for that is if the fish have switched onto that trigger, then I can see what's happening and it's there, but you can see already the shapes there. So I've tied through twice and I'm bringing the silk underneath those fibres to cock them up. And then I'm pulling this. You can see why I got rid of that other massive hair. I might have to get rid of this in a minute as well. And I'll bring this up, and I'm just doing and covering as an underbody. Just to secure those tails in. And the joy of using this silk is that what you can see is that I don't get a big fat body. Just going to trim off the waist ends of the cocktail on there. And I think it's important that you keep that smoothness of the body. And I'm back to the base of that again, and once more I'm going to take the silk underneath those tails and lift up. Now by pushing my thumb under, they'll splay slightly. Alright, so I've got 4 fibres in there, and what I can do is then bring up through and put the silk between 2 in each side, so they just splay out a bit, and this helps support the fly and also gives it out. I know a lot of patterns have, the actual real fly has 3 tails and whatnot. If you want to tie in 6 and do it that way, by all means do, but I do this in such a way that it holds the fly up. I'm now going to take another piece of quill from my bunch of quills. I'm just going to trim this end off because I don't want it too light at the tail. Underneath, bring over and bring the silk up towards that thorax area. Again, take a tiny little bit of super glue, and this is just belt and braces, it just all locks it in. Don't need a great deal. First turn, and I'm bringing up in touching turns. There's just one CDC fibre that really is starting to irritate me now, so I'm getting them out of the way. I'm going to bring this up and through, and I'm getting that natural, nice looking segmentation up to the thoracic point. Tie off, 2 over, 1 in front as a locking turn, and I can remove the quill without cutting the silk. And again, once again, I'm going to protect this body. with a bit of UV. I'll put the UV on, then take my bodkin or dummy needle and spread it over. You don't need a fantastic amount, but it just gives the fly a little bit more strength. I'm just going to add a bit more, but this time I'm going to add it to the needle. Close the lid, turn on the light, put the blue light on it, which will seal it all up. A few seconds all the way around. Lovely. And that is that. Almost completed. Now, your choice is yours now. Previously I used the foxtail, and I'm going to, oh no, the squirrel fox, and I'm going to use it again. I'm pinching a few pieces out, but this time I'm also going to take a bit more of the underfur. And there's a tiny bit of flash in there, which I don't dislike. I'm bringing this up, closing, bringing it through, and in front, back, and in front. And what you can see is a lot of this hair I'm actually picking out now, but it gives it that nice emerging look. Just building up the head, and take my dye pen, create an olive head, and wet finish off. Bring it through. Take it up. And the last thing I need to do now is that I'm actually looking at the length of that wing, and this is why I've done it slightly bigger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from the top down. So what I actually ended up with is this sort of proper wing shape with a bulk of the CDC at the back, so it supports the actual fly. And you can see if I turn it this way, you've got it's sprayed at that point. If you want, and you want it actually further down, you can actually take your scissors and trim through the centre of the fly there, so you've got the legs coming out either side. Fantastic little pattern, works really well when the fish are literally taking the fly as it's in the surface film as opposed to being a dun. This is still an emerger because it's not a full wing sat on top. Give it a go, it works.